So, Darren, did you just want to, I guess, give a brief background to who you are and I guess the kind of work you've been doing with MLA in the digital space out at Cooler and at Romani?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Marty. I'm director and founder of Price Rural Management. My background is in livestock agriculture. I've worked in rural industry for 35 years. The last 22 years, up till last November, I was general manager of Kawula Pastoral Company, privately owned pastoral company in the southern tablelands of New South Wales. And during my final time, since then, I've now moved to full-time consultancy in my own business. But during the last year and a half of my time at Kawula, I had an opportunity to work with MLA. Sean Starling from MLA approached me. We shared a common interest in digital technology, but also the hype around digital tech for the last 30 odd years. What's out there, what's working, what isn't working. And so we built a couple of pilot programs, one at Kawula Pastoral Company that I worked with MLA on. And since leaving Kawula, I've worked with them, and another one was Romani Pastoral Company. Basically, we put in 700 odd devices of various types across about 36,000 hectares on numerous properties. And we've tried all the connectivity spaces and everything like that as well. So had a really good grounding in exactly what is out there, what works, what producers are needing. And I guess the key learnings we've had from the digital farm projects, what actually makes IoT, remote sensing, animal tracking, etc., useful to business. There's a few key points, and I guess the first thing is to identify and deal with the basics. So identifying pain points within a business and understanding what truly is required. Farmers and producers in general are often not particularly good at identifying their pain points. They just deal with issues. It's just what you do. So having that understanding or that clearer conversation is important. And it's not about finding a solution and presenting it and then what is the problem that goes with the solution. You just need to identify the biggest sets of issues to be addressed. Of course, you need to understand the connectivity needs and existing opportunities to each situation, and they can be many and varied. There's always a connectivity solution. That's the big thing. People tend to, human nature just goes for the things that they're most obviously aware of, but all of these solutions are maturing each day, and now are looking at realistic costs. So the cost of towers and so forth has come down considerably in the last 18 months to 2 years. But connectivity is definitely still an issue, but something that can be solved. And then, of course, there's the understanding of what is actually out there. Who's who in the zoo? Who's supplying what? Are they reliable? What's their back end solution in terms of support? How many dollars for each solution? Things like that. So understanding company offerings and what's out there in actual fact and is commercial is the next thing. And this, of course, then leads into, justification for business change and spending the capital that's required for these sort of things. And often the understanding of how these solutions can work within a business is a slow development. Solution providers and industry in general need to improve the way they're communicated to producers and end users. That the fatigue issue, which someone has mentioned already this morning, is reduced. I think I'm seeing a lot of fatigue within industry, producers particularly, that hype is being accelerated because there's so much more interest in digital tech, and it's becoming more and more apparent that it's there and so forth. But often there's a frustration that we're not really any further ahead than we were 10, 15 years ago. So I think it's a really important point for everybody to focus on, that if we're going to talk about these things and promote them, let's make them really happen. but when you get around to looking at business change or practice change, it's all about understanding, and that is, what is the business change paradigm for any selected solution? Is it a labour or overhead cost saving, greater understandings of animal behaviour, animal welfare, WHS, the list goes on and on. A clear understanding of a return on investment. If people are going to be spending licks of capital, they need to understand what the return on investment is. Again, it's not always apparent. It's not just bottom line financial. It can also be social aspects, and we just all want some valuable time with family. That can be as much of a payback as anything. And then, of course, quality of data, and this needs to be quality. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be consistent. Everything falls over at some point, but the longer it's off, and the least support, the lower amount of support that comes from providers will lead to a negativity base in uptake. So, and then finally, I guess it's the ability to upscale, and add-ons are always a really good thing too. So that contributes to people saying that we do want to do this, and a business change is actually available.
Excellent, Darren. One of the things we really want to get across today, and as Jen made the point at the start, is really the producer perspective on how we're taking these technologies and applying them on farm. So from a research point of view, we've got these great technologies that are technically at times fit for purpose, but in terms of how we apply them in an actual operating environment, often we miss the mark, and that's something we need to have in mind when we're having these discussions today. What are the end user needs and challenges, and making sure that we don't have hammers looking for nails. We're actually identifying what those key pain points are, and then trying to find the right technologies and business models to help solve that.